This is Wild Green Streams. I'm Rhett.
I'm Io.
And today, for the Good News Update, we have Christina, a member of the group who wrote in to our Good News Update segment. Christina, welcome to the pod.
Hello, thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself. You live in Delaware?
So I'm a resident of New Zealand, but I have a house in Delaware I've not been able to sell. It's a beautiful property. I have 50 acres total that I got for a song because it was part abandoned farmland, part woods and wetland. And I've been a release site for the Sussex County Wildlife Rehabber for a few years now. So it's mostly juvenile animals and more recently skunks, which we'll get into more. But yeah, it's really lovely having this property in Delaware, but also being a resident of New Zealand.
So your initial good news that you sent us in the thread was about your skunks. It was actually kind of a picture of a little posse of skunks. I think there are 3 of them in it, just all sitting there looking at the camera and arranged artfully. What's the story there?
Yeah, so going back, these poor skunks, a bad neighbor shot their mother, and she had been nesting under a good neighbor's deck. So when their poor mother was no longer of this world because somebody with a gun decided they hated skunks, they started coming out from under the deck, and the Good Samaritan called around and found the rehabber, Tony, who's my friend, and Tony took them in and raised them, and they did really well. So she started messaging me about doing a release, and I was so excited because I'd never had a skunk release while I was around. So we finally coordinated. There was a good weather day, and she came out, and I picked a spot not far from the house, which I won't do again. Skunks are lovely, but they would run all around the house. And we put them right next to some brambles and some native wildflowers and some shrubs, and we released them. And juvenile wild animals can be quite tame, and they'll go quite wild, quite happily on their own. But skunks, of course, also have the personality trait of being kind of inquisitive and very nearsighted. So as I was filming, one in particular came up to me and started sniffing the camera, which I also posted for a NMS day, non-meme Sunday. But it made for a very cute video and some very cute photos as well. And then that evening, they tripped one of my driveway cameras, and I ran out. And all 4 were still kind of together, huddled, and scurrying about doing their thing. And the next morning, I saw lots of little burrowing spots where they had burrowed around the yard, so I knew that they were foraging and getting what they needed. And I don't mind the potholes. I've seen them in past years, especially around my blueberries. They don't do any significant damage to any plants, and they're always welcome here. Not just these 4 juveniles that were released, but all the skunks that I have around the property naturally already.
Were these your first rehab animals that you'd had released on the property, or had you been doing that before then?
No, so previously we've had a lot of possums, mostly juveniles, but some adults. Typically they try to release the adults in the region of where they were taken, but sometimes that's not possible. So a lot of juvenile possums, raccoons of different ages, and they're always a hoot because they tend to stick together. And they also find trouble around like my carport and stuff. You got to put things away and not leave shoes out. And then foxes as well. And we try to release the foxes in particular in different areas. I have multiple ponds around the property. So we're always trying to release near one of the ponds so that the animals can always find a good source of water. There's plenty of wild food out here. It's all native plants in a small permaculture orchard. So yeah, there's lots here to share and to coexist with wildlife.
How did you get into having wildlife released on your property?
Yeah, so I'm a veterinarian, and I've done a lot of different types of rescue, like parrot rescue and stuff. So when I got in touch with the rehab group, I signed up to be a release site. Having bought this property in 2018, it also backs up to state forest land. So it's a quite lovely place to be able to release these different animals and have them, the foxes in particular have to disperse and find a little niche because they're quite territorial, but they have the room to come out from here, from a centralized area, and get themselves established. And the possums and the skunks and the raccoons have plenty of space as well. So yeah, it's just worked out really lovely. And it's always wonderful when I can be here on release day. And if I'm not in New Zealand, I can, see the animals, and they're usually at least somewhat tame. Not the foxes, they're pretty wild on release, even the juveniles, but the raccoons kind of just ignore us and start exploring and kind of zigzagging back and forth and passing by us as they kind of look around and get established. So it's pretty cool. And then I can tell you back to the skunks, it was also really cool. So the evening of their release, I got to kind of see that they were all four hanging out together. The next day, they were digging around. And then the next evening, I was walking down the trail near where we had released them. And I thought, well, they'd gone to the other side of the house. They probably bedded down over there. Well, just at dusk, I'm walking down the trail and they had all four come out. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just film them. And I crouched down to film them and they start running up towards me. And I'm like, oh no, oh no. Nearsighted little skunks, little, like, they were tame yesterday. That doesn't mean they're tame today. And they came right up to me. And at first I thought the friendly one from the day before had come up first, who I'd named Hammy. And it was a different one that came up first. And he was quite sensitive once he got a sniff of me and realized that I might be something bad. He starts stomping and scratching. And I'm like, I am in so much danger. And this is the most adorable danger. And I don't want to get stomped, but if I do, I do. Coexist. But, maybe don't bend down when four little juvenile skunks have just come out to forage.
Makes for a good photo, though.
Oh, it made for an adorable photo. I took a still and there's, four of them with their tails up. And I'm like, oh, it looks like a little at dusk punk rock band.
It's perfectly framed. Like if you could have staged it, you couldn't have staged it any better. Yeah. Just like you could see their little like personalities and attitudes as they just like trot right up to you. Like they're on their turf now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They were just living life and out exploring. And the funny thing is, right before they really realized I was there, Stomper was foraging in the ground and he was digging up a grub. And one of his siblings shoved their nose like right into his hole and tried to grab their grub. And I'm not sure who got it. It was so dark, but it was so cute to see them kind of like foraging together and competing for the abundant resources.
Sibling dynamics seem to go across species no matter what.
Yes, it was quite adorable. So I managed to extricate myself from the situation. I kind of talked to them. Stomper kept scratching and stomping, but he never lifted his butt, but tails in the air, and I kind of backed off, and I didn't quite have an easy trail to get back to the house. But I found a path as they started coming towards me again, and I was like, no, we're good. We're definitely good. And almost every evening for the next few evenings, I ran into at least Stomper. And I knew to also look for them out my back porch, because that was a favorite spot of theirs. And even though they dug up a lot of little like potholes, it was never a worry. I don't mind rough spots and little holes. And then they went out into the orchard and I saw their little dig marks out in the orchard, although I didn't run into them in the orchard. And now I don't know where they are. I occasionally see fresh dig marks, but they've definitely finally dispersed away from the house and the orchard, thankfully.
If they were a band, what would the band be called?
The Adorable Trouble.
The Adorable Trouble. You thought that through. You had that ready to go.
Yeah. Something like that. We could probably find some modifiers on that, but yeah.
That's a good one. Adorable Trouble is perfect.
Or Adorable Danger.
Yeah. Ooh. And this is the photo you took could be the album cover. So like, you edit the band's name in the top. You're all set. You just got to teach them how to play some instruments, I guess.
They'll probably, one will be scratching and one will be snuffling.
There you go. Some drums. A lot of percussive instruments, I think, would be right up their alley.
Yes. They would definitely do well with percussive instruments.
Yeah. Well, Christina, I don't want to hold you too much longer. I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all about your property and about the animals that you're helping and that are getting released after rehab there.
No worries. And thank you guys for everything you do, from the comical to the serious. Really love the Facebook group and sharing it with people. And the podcast is wonderful too. And I'm glad to be on.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's great to meet you.
Thank you.
Good to have people like you on who can help and, make the podcast and the group even better.
No worries. Thank you.